They've chosen a new mayor to lead them, Jean XIII. A ship owner, he already heroically stood up to the royal fleet a few years earlier. He's just the man to embody the city's resistance.
They say that when Guiton was appointed mayor of La Rochelle, he took a vow. He pulled out his dagger and said, "I'll be mayor if you want. But if anyone talks about surrendering, or if I fail, any one of you has the right to stab me." Then he stabbed his dagger into the table, where legend has it that it remained until the end of the siege.
It's Jean Guiton then for the Rochellais, and for Louis XIII's side, Richelieu. They're both 42 years old when the siege begins. They both have a keen sense of duty and of strategy. And there are no holds barred. Richelieu even sends spies into the city to spread false information. As for the Rochellais, they remain firm and determined. Every inhabitant, be he a merchant or a fisherman, will defend their true strength, the city's fortifications.
La Rochelle had formidable artillery at the time, famous throughout Europe. Most of the Rochellais were trained for the cannon, the musket, and all the weapons of the time. This meant that even people like merchants and simple folk could defend themselves, and the sailors could look after themselves very well. There are even occasions when the women of La Rochelle helped defend the city. If an area of the wall had been weakened, or the ramparts needed repairing, they'd carry stones in their baskets to help reinforce them.
The Rochellais have another advantage too: their access to the Atlantic Ocean.
As long as there was this opening to the sea, it didn't matter whether the royal troops put cannons out at the Minimes or out at the end of the bay, because the Rochellais boats always managed to pass with supplies and ammunition, and like that, the siege could have lasted for years.
Especially since by sea, their constant ally is never far away. The English fleet always stands ready to come to their aid. The Kingdom of England has good reason to be interested in this port city. They share the same religion. In 1627, of La Rochelle's 28,000 inhabitants, more than 18,000 are Protestant. It's one of the main bastions of the Protestant Church in France. They all attend services at the temple to pray that their city may stand up to the anger of Louis XIII. The Catholic king cannot tolerate in his kingdom these opponents, whom he also sees as heretics.
He's very possessive of his authority, very attached to monarchical power, and he wants to re-establish the state.
To do so, he can count on his prime minister, a very tough man, the Cardinal Richelieu.
Armand Jean du Plessis, Duke of Richelieu, is both a man of the church and a man of war, as well as a statesman. And the king and his minister really see eye to eye.
The two men, both devout Catholics, are engaged in a merciless struggle against those who defy the king's authority.
Richelieu knows very well that if the Protestants have resisted since the 1560s, it's thanks to La Rochelle. It's no coincidence that many historians have dubbed La Rochelle the Atlantic capital of French Protestantism. La Rochelle is a thorn in the side of the king. If he is definitively to impose his authority in his kingdom, the Rochellais must be undermined.
Especially since La Rochelle has a strong ally, the new King of England, Charles I. Louis's rival fully intends to support the Protestants of France, and above all, those in refuge in La Rochelle.
It's strategic. It's a major port on the Atlantic coast. But politically, its importance is even higher. So Huguenot population is 10, 15% of the French population, but most of them are in the south and they're inland. And so La Rochelle is one of the few places where if the English have to help their fellow Protestants, that's the only place they can really do it realistically.
For Richelieu and Louis XIII, La Rochelle enjoys too much autonomy. It has to be taken at any cost. And the English threat, a very real threat, eradicated. Charles I, King of England, decides to send an expedition to support La Rochelle, his Protestant ally. Above all, this is the perfect alibi for destabilizing Louis XIII. In the summer of 1627, the English hove into view.
It's a vast armada. It's over 100 vessels. It's a major fleet. There are about 7,000 English troops.
To carry out this expedition, Charles can rely on the waggish Duke of Buckingham. For Buckingham has a very personal motive to challenge Louis XIII. They say he's been flirting with the Queen of France. For Louis XIII, this is a provocation too far. It's all turning into a duel between the two rulers, Louis and Charles. And between two powers that have never stopped despising each other. At the head of the armada sent to resupply the Rochellais, Buckingham takes an unexpected turn. He sails not for La Rochelle, but for the island of Ré.
I don't think it was a strategic error. Buckingham had had a lot of experience over the years. He knew that if he was to rescue the Rochellais, he had first to gain a foothold on Ré. The island of Ré is the lock of La Rochelle. He who controls the island of Ré controls the access to La Rochelle.
The English troops land on the beach of Sablonceau, in the south of the island. To control Ré, Buckingham has to bring down two strategic strongholds: the Fort de la Prée, and especially the citadel of Saint-Martin-de-Ré.
But in the process, they make a major error. In fact, they make a series of errors. They go past a smaller fort on the eastern side of the island, La Prée. Some of the military commanders with Buckingham said, you need to take that fort before we go on and attack the citadel. And Buckingham says, no, 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 let's just go straight on to the citadel.
The English are caught between the island of Ré's two fortifications. So, in the autumn of 1627, there are two sieges a few kilometers apart. Offshore, the English are surrounding Saint-Martin-de-Ré. On land, the French besiege La Rochelle. In both cases, the fortifications are wearing out their attackers. On the 6th of November, the English decide to go for broke.
Finally, they make one kind of last assault. Their ladders are actually not tall enough to get over the walls of Saint-Martin, and they have to retreat. And when they retreat, the French come out and start essentially slaughtering the English as they're going back to their ships. And it's really a massacre. There are about 4,000 people who die in the retreat back to the ships, and at this point, Buckingham has to leave and go back to England. It was a complete humiliation for Buckingham.
Despite this victory, Richelieu remains on his guard. As long as La Rochelle has access to the sea, Richelieu knows the English could return.